Hello, I'm delighted to be here with my colleague Monde Muyangwa, who is the director of the Africa program at the Woodrow Wilson Center. I'm Roger-Mark De Souza, and I direct our work on population, environmental security, and resilience. Monde, it's good to have this opportunity to chat.
Yes, thank you.
There's a big event happening in Washington, D.C. that ties the United States and Africa next week. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. As many people know by now, President Obama has invited nearly 50 African leaders to come to Washington next week for U.S. Africa Leaders Summit. Now, this summit is historic for a number of reasons. First, as you know, many African countries gained their independence 50 years ago, and this will be the first time that a U.S. Africa Summit will be held, ever. So this is a big landmark in U.S. Africa relations. Secondly, although the U.S. has very strong bilateral and sometimes regional relations with many African countries, this is the first ever opportunity that we have to have a comprehensive discussion about where U.S.-Africa relations stand, the future for U.S.-Africa relations, and to address some key issues in the economic, political, and governance spheres, as well as security, in terms of strengthening U.S.-Africa relations. I think the third point that I would make with regard to why this is historic is that for many Americans, Africa is largely hidden or is often couched in the negative terms. The conflict that's ongoing in Africa, the poverty, and yet there's much more to Africa. So I think next week presents an opportunity to spotlight the diversity of the continent, to focus not just on the challenges, but also Africa's successes.
So it sounds like a really good opportunity to recognize these opportunities and how we as Americans can learn more and appreciate the possibilities for the continent.
Absolutely.
What are some of the specific topics or themes that will be covered during the summit?
The summit will focus on three main areas. The first is investing in Africa's future, which really focuses on expanding and enhancing trade and investment opportunities, all with a goal of enhancing sustainable development in Africa. As many of you may know, Africa accounts for 6 of the fastest growing economies in the world. And so the key issue really for Africa and the United States is to figure out how you translate that economic growth into sustainable development and human security that benefits Africa's citizens. And that translation could provide engagement opportunities, businesses, trade, and investment for American companies. And so that's an area that the summit wants to look at. The second area that the summit would like to focus on is on the issue of peace and regional stability. I think those of us who've worked Africa for many years were quite happy to see a decline of conflict in Africa in the 1990s and early 2000s. Unfortunately, what we've seen recently is that conflict is increasing in some African regions, but we also see that conflict is becoming quite intractable in others. You look at the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so I think this will be an opportunity for the U.S. and Africa to review what can be done to better enhance the ability to manage and address conflict and enhance stability on the continent. The third area that the summit will be looking at is on governing for the next generation, which really talks about how can we further entrench democratic governance to benefit Africa for the long term and Africans for the long term. And part of this is also about investing in Africa's future. So looking to the youth, how do you empower youth so that Africa's youth bulge actually becomes an asset that is used to drive Africa's growth and development. So those are the three major themes.
So very interesting. So around Africa's future in terms of investment and economic opportunities, peace and stability, and really looking at what it means in terms of governance and how this ties into broader issues like population dynamics and youth.
Absolutely.
So what does this mean for the work that we do here at the Wilson Center in the Africa program?
This is a wonderful opportunity for the Wilson Center to advance and build on what comes out of the summit. The summit themes align very well with the work that we do here at the Wilson Center, which is interrogating some of the key issues in U.S.-Africa relations, looking to amplify the successes that we've already have in U.S. Africa relations around the themes of governance and leadership, around the issue of peace and conflict building, around the issue of conflict management and peace building, an area that the Wilson Center has an outstanding reputation because we've been working these issues for many, many years, but also looking at Africa's evolving role in the global arena. The Africa of today is not the Africa of 50 years ago. And continuing to look at Africa through that lens, I think causes us to lose opportunities. So we want to really look at how Africa is evolving, engaging with the global environment and what the opportunities are for further engagement.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Monde. It's really good to have your vision for the continent here at the Woodrow Wilson Center, and looking forward to the opportunities that come out of the summit as we continue to develop our programming in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger-Mark.